all of us were so busy in our cell phone driven meeting Zoom kind of life to step back and see that life is a gift. The ideas that are in here in The Wolf That Wins, I've encouraged everybody to listen to and think about it. So I love to interview people who are awesome and just pick their brains so that other people can learn from your years of experience or hear how you think about life. And it could be about the, American IV Association. It could be about The Wolf That Wins.
Sure.
It could be about anything, themes that you want. Our audience is twofold. One is we have business owners. So they own franchises, or they're personal injury attorneys, or the real estate agents. They're all service, like chiropractors, right? Home services. And then the other side are all of the workers. So we have a lot of young adults that are doing social media. I have 1 million followers just in Pakistan of people that are learning how to do video editing. Like I have the #1 best-selling book in social media right now. It's on TikTok.
That's wild.
And I do all kinds of stunts with, fake money and all this kind of stuff. I have a money gun. If you want, I'll send you one. Jake Paul is the #1 influencer among young adults.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a young adult, then this is the guy, because he's on TikTok, Instagram. He's fighting other people. You've probably heard about his fight.
Oh yeah.
But he and I put together a whole course that's teaching young adults how to do social media for old people like me. So we're bringing both sides. So these young adults are teaching old people like me how to be on TikTok and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So my audience is both of those sides. You can
so
speak
cool,
to
man.
either side. Yeah.
That's great. And how long ago did you get into it?
30 years ago.
Oh my Lord, man. I didn't even hear of the internet 30 years ago.
Well, I had a mentor who at that time was the CEO of American Airlines. And I was going to go to Goldman Sachs or McKinsey or American Airlines. And American Airlines paid way less than these other places. But my mentor said, because I said, I could go to Goldman Sachs and I could be, an associate within 3 years and be making $250,000 like my cousin on my mom's side, right? All the folks at Goldman before they went public, when we actually made real money back then.
Right.
And my mentor said to me, well, you could, but do you want to focus on your learning curve or your earning curve? And will an extra $20,000 or $30,000 a year actually make a difference in a few years from now? So he convinced me to work at American Airlines. And that was almost 30 years ago. And I built one of the first websites back when it was CompuServe and AOL and Prodigy, before there was like the real internet. We could actually, it was, your mom would pick up the phone and then it would shut down the internet. And that's, ever since then, I've always been a practitioner of like building websites and doing social media and like doing things on the internet. And I've taught other people how to do it. So it just naturally evolved into a teaching role, because when I was one of the first people at Yahoo, and I had to train people on how to be search engine engineers when this thing didn't exist before. So it wasn't. So I had to teach people how to parse logs and how to spot people trying to spam us because they're trying to do SEO. So naturally, it just evolves into this. And that's why I like working with you and Sam and other folks, where these businesses are all trying to grow and they need the workers. So we're training the workers on the legitimate techniques, working together with Google and GoDaddy and TikTok. TikTok was actually the one that funded this book. They paid me enough money that I had to sit up straight for a moment.
Wow.
And they did
That's
that because
wild,
they know that I'm probably the best known guy for Facebook ads. So, and because Facebook's gotten kicked, it's Mark Zuckerberg's own fault for causing all these problems. But a lot of people have moved from Facebook to TikTok on the advertising side.
Yeah.
So naturally, people trust me on Facebook ads. So it certainly made sense for me to write a book on TikTok ads. And they lined up all the top TikTokers. I got the interview, which is great.
That is so cool, man. And it's such a different space than I've immersed myself in the past 35 years.
Well, this story is about you. The Coach U show is about you, Jeff. And I don't know anything about lawyers. I just think about lawyers as people that I want to not get in trouble with. Or my lawyer is always cynical in reviewing contracts to make sure that we don't sign something or give away something.
Well, it's funny because most people think lawyers have a pretty predictable and linear path. It's the kid that, like in high school, knew what he wanted to do, and his dad was a lawyer and he always knew he wanted to go to law school and be a lawyer, and he wanted to work as a corporate lawyer, a tax lawyer, a litigator, whatever. And I'm like, I'm not that guy.
Yeah, based on the stories in here, this is about to, I mean, there's all kinds of liability in here.
Exactly. Big time. Big time. Yeah. So funny. Yeah. Well, thank you for asking me, man. I really appreciate it.
So how does the lawyer at first, and I think you even addressed it in the beginning of the book, because I'm thinking, all right, a lawyer writing a book, what kind of stuff, what do you expect to be in this book? And instead, it's an entertaining story. It's a very readable human story about your journey trying to find mission, about, being this, you're not good enough, and the voice in your head, and your dad disciplining you, and you getting in car accidents, and all the kinds of ups and downs. It's like you said it wasn't the hero's journey, it was kind of the anti-hero's journey. I felt that was one of the few cases where where you're actually laying it out on what life is
Yeah.
really like. And then people like me can read this and say, a lot of that resonates with me, because I wasn't a superhero, but I also am just trying to go through life, and I'm not perfect, but I can see, this journey towards being a man. It's like you never get to being a man because you're always up and down. I'm like curious, like what was in your mind as you went, like, not only to write this, but like, what were you
Mhm.
searching for? I got the sense that you were when you're in your 30s and you're sitting there, you're divorced, you're talking to your dad, that you were trying to search for meaning, but you weren't able to find it in pot, or find it in, going to live with the monks in the mountains or something. Mountain View,
Right.
right? That
Right.
kind of.
It's a good question. I mean, I didn't know what I was searching for. The only thing I was consciously aware of is that I was emotionally suffering and I wanted relief from it. That was it, until I was, I don't know, from the time I was a little boy until the time I was in my early 40s. Now, I mean, there was this interruption of me kind of playing out my life's course, becoming a father, becoming a husband, becoming a lawyer, all those things, which, although it wasn't a straight line for me, it was in me to become those things. So I became those things. And in those years where I'm becoming those things, I'm not principally engaged in trying to relieve emotional suffering. I'm not even acutely aware of it. But there became a time when I became acutely aware of it, at a time when most of us go through something that we call a midlife crisis. And in the midst of it, it was just very confusing and very destabilizing. And I got divorced and changed a lot of things. And I became really aware of how common that is, because I saw other men at that stage of their life, late 30s, early 40s, going through a similar disruption and trying to find our way, and me trying to find my way. And it was literally kind of going the next 50 feet, whatever I thought might address my discomfort, my emotional discomfort, one thing to another, to another, to another, until I ended up in the company of shamans and learning from them and traveling with them and receiving their rituals and then teaching those rituals and all that other stuff. And like anything else, the more data you get in your head, the quicker your brain does pattern recognition. And over traveling a long way, I became acutely aware of the fact that what I was doing was ripening as a human being. It's like, oh my God, even though I was freaked out at a lot of that time, I was essentially becoming, I was ripening. And then when I looked around me, and I remember it was an Al-Anon meeting. It's so funny. I'm like, I don't know, 43, in the early years of learning from shamans and about shamanism and connecting to something that we could call spirituality, which I didn't have any connection with until I was about 40. I'm in the room of a bunch of guys in this Al-Anon meeting because I had a girlfriend who said that she liked alcohol a whole lot. And I was never exposed to it. So a mentor said to me, you should go to Al-Anon. So I end up in this room with these guys, and I'm probably 41 years old. And these guys are funny, and they're transparent, and they're spiritual, and they're kind of emotional, and they're kind of like me. And I had this big smile on my face at some point, and I realized I love these guys. And my brain did the very quick put it together where it was like, I love them. They're like me. I guess I kind of love me too. And that was kind of the beginning. That was the beginning of seeing myself in other men, and then finding the compassion and connection and desire to be in the company of good guys, good men. And that really was the beginning of my marination process into masculine energy and to becoming a man. That was it. That began it.
Do you think it takes one of these rock bottom kinds of moments to trigger that? Or like you got in a car accident and there was no one there, but you saw angels. Maybe that was a glimpse. Something there. There's a message there, right?
Yeah, there is. And, honestly, you ask a good question, because you're talking about, most people I've noticed are afraid of going there, wherever there is. And the only thing that really gets them motivated to go there is the pain of here. That's most of us. Until the pain of here becomes unbearable or undesirable, we're just not going to go somewhere that we're frightened to go, because we're always afraid to go there, wherever there is, which isn't here. And so I would say that I was incredibly in need of pain and discomfort. I was in need of it. Yeah,
that was your familiar friend.
I learned to use it. I learned to respond to it. I didn't understand the value of it. When I was younger, I didn't like emotional pain. I pulled as much value or a lesson as I could from a situation, but I didn't understand the value, the gift of it. I didn't understand when I was younger. Pain and then responding to pain it creates momentum. And that momentum, if I pick a good course, I'm going to learn something and I'm going to grow and I'm going to change. I didn't have an appreciation for the need for pain and discomfort. And, that car accident when I was 22 years old, and I see these people standing in the headlights that nobody else saw, I was absolutely not buying the notion that they weren't there. I was so in the body and in the physical and not a spiritual person or a religious person at all, that the fact that I had that very tangible experience, I just became convinced that they were there, and maybe they left before anybody got there. It's a long-winded way of saying, I think that because I was so in my head, I needed a lot of discomfort to shake me out of it and to make me available and vulnerable to learning and growing and being.
Do you think that if you had learned from shamans when you were in your teens, that the car accident wouldn't have even happened, or other things wouldn't have happened, that maybe a lot of these things you're bringing upon yourself? Because you said in the beginning of your book that a lot of us, we feel that we're unworthy or not loved. We have these scripts in our head. And I'm wondering how much of that is manifesting, because I see this pattern in your life all the way up until your early 40s.
Yeah, I think that that it fundamentally comes down to a relationship that I began to have with life from interacting with it, where I began to see this pattern that everything that happened to me was a gift, was an opportunity. And the shamans have this word, masanchakwe, that really describes the fact that we encounter these disaggregating, disorienting kind of traumas in our lives. And some of them are purposed towards reorganizing us in a much better way. And that car accident when I was 22, it created a trajectory that ended up resulting in law school, which nobody would have bet that I would have gone to law school. And I never would have bet that I would have gone to law school. But when I look back on it, it was like, oh, that was life giving me something that I needed, and it's so many times in from that point on that I came to appreciate these traumas. People talk about traumas and PTSD and depression and anxiety and all that other stuff that are reactions or adaptations to things. We all talk about it and we all have certain experiences with it because we're human. But one of the things that I notice about it is that those traumas become superpowers when we answer the call. Our journey to find relief from a rough childhood or a business that tanks or a relationship that goes bad. These painful gateways invite us and inspire us to take action. And often it's twofold. I want to feel better and I want to learn something so I can create a better outcome. I didn't realize the role of discomfort and pain and trauma until I worked with it enough to realize that it gave me certain gifts and superpowers that I didn't have without it. Like that book that you had in front of you, I wrote it because I wanted to be helpful to other people. And I wanted to normalize the process of becoming a human being, particularly becoming a man. I couldn't have written that book had I not been living and had I not been impacted the way that I was impacted. I mean, the gift of trauma that my father gave me, that I briefly described and kind of obliquely described in the book, it made me somebody who has value to give to other people, and it gave me purpose as a man who likes to serve other human beings. I didn't see that coming. When I was in the midst of dealing with pain and trauma and discomfort, it was about me. I just wanted to get out of pain and trauma and discomfort. The outcome of it is I ended up with value that all I want to do is give it away. I remember, and I think I described it in the book. I remember years ago, Bill Moyers was interviewing this Jungian psychologist, and maybe I'll remember his name as I talk to you. When I listened to it many, many years ago, I didn't understand what he was talking about, this psychologist. But later on, those kind of seeds ripened, and I realized, oh my gosh, there's this thing in life that we can call the hero's journey. And the hero goes out, encounters the dragon, slays the dragon, gets lessons from doing it, and then takes those lessons back to their community. It's a cycle. And so the hero becomes kind of a conduit of value and wisdom. It's not about the hero. The hero simply puts himself into a position to encounter the adversary, slay the adversary, learn things, and bring wisdom and lessons back to the community. So in some sense, the hero is simply a vehicle of service. Yeah, and what I was doing beforehand is something that I certainly didn't understand, but I was encountering dragons, slaying dragons, and then looking for another dragon and slaying the dragon. I didn't understand that the whole purpose of that drama, of that cycle, is to obtain and deliver value. That's it. It's just to be of service. And so I experienced what I would call the wounded warrior in going out to encounter the dragon, slay the dragon, learn things, and miss the last part, that, it's all about delivering and being a man of value and service to those that you care about and that matter to you. What I ended up doing was getting a big backpack and filling it full of lessons and thinking it meant something about me, and essentially trying to get love and value on the basis of, look what I've learned, look what I think I know. And I could never do it. You can't embody that kind of love and value externally. You have to give it away. You have to make it, in some sense, not about you, because that whole focus on the self, on myself, was just inherently painful and inescapable.
I think any middle-aged man, which is most middle-aged men that are struggling with some kind of pain on their path to adulthood, as if we ever become adults, can learn from you. And the idea that it's not about yourself, but it's about it's like, what is it Nietzsche says, whatever doesn't kill me strengthens me. I feel like you and I have had plenty of these gifts that are great examples for other people, and with you and I as conduits, as vehicles for other people.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
And it's funny, and I do think it's kind of developmental, meaning it's uncommon to find somebody who has that kind of calling and that kind of language and experience and stories at 30 or 40 even. I noticed when I turned 50, I had this kind of inexplicable drive and desire to just give away everything that had been given to me. And it's not like I'd read a book or decided to do it. I just felt the pull to it. So it was like time to do it. I remember my wife was really upset at one of her kids because the kid wasn't further along than she wanted him to be. And I was listening to her. We were sitting on the patio, and there's this orange tree in the backyard, and the oranges were green, because if you've ever watched an orange tree, they all start out green, and then over time they become orange. And I listened to her and I said, your frustration with your boy is a little bit like being upset at that tree, because the oranges, because the oranges aren't orange. But we do that to ourselves, and I certainly did too. And one of the things I know is that growth is inevitable. Transformation is inevitable. Every living thing grows and transforms. If you stay in it long enough, you grow and transform. The people that have the most fun with it seem to be people who really are curious. They just have this curiosity, and they like to learn. And that's probably, I would say, the two qualifications for living a rich life are be curious and don't quit. That's it. That's it. You're going to become something, and you're going to ripen. And the guy that you are today is not the guy you're going to be in a year, because nothing is. Nothing that lives is the same a year from now as it is today.
Well, what about people who are pessimistic and say, my life is and woe is me, and bad things always happen to me because it's just me. And you have this optimistic thing where everything's heading towards ripening, but what if some people, they never ripen? It's just rotten fruit.
I think that takes real commitment. Like, I think that if you look at what your life is today, any of us, it's completely a reflection of what we believe and what we commit ourselves to. Like, there's two ways to look at life. One is it's happening to me, and the other is I'm actually creating it.
Everything happens for us instead of to us.
Exactly. It's a classic Tony Robbins comment, is life happening to you or for you? Well, I mean, my perspective is it's absolutely happening for me because of my reaction to it. My reaction is I want to pull value from it. I don't just want to suffer. I want to grow. The natural human trajectory seems to be from victim to hero. I mean, when you're a kid, the reason why you failed a class is your teacher's fault. It's never your fault, right? You're a victim.
Yeah.
And then you get a little bit older and you just prove over and over to yourself what you can do, what you can accomplish. And over time, you just become more and more a hero in your own play. And if you're not, then all you need is something really, really fundamental and pretty simple. You just need someone to talk to, because no growth happens in a closet. I mean, you're just not going to see your brain. The people that have the X factor in life are people that want to understand themselves and have some level of mastery over their mind.
How do you find someone to talk to? Who do you know? Who's the right person that's credible to talk to?
Yeah. I was just talking to a guy yesterday, a guy that I work with on my body, and he's a wonderful physiotherapist. We were just having this conversation the other day. He's in his 50s. And I said, you really can't expect as a man to embody masculine energy and to feel good and proud of yourself if you're not spending time with other men of quality, because something happens on an energetic basis. I mean, if you've had a wife or a girlfriend, you notice that when they go away and they have time with the girls, they come back refreshed and renewed and rebalanced. Well, we do the same thing, and this, while women are more inclined to communicate with other women and have time with other women, men tend to be, I'll do it on my own. I don't, I'm going to dig into being a doctor or a lawyer or a husband or a father, and that's going to get me where I'm going. But fundamentally, we're like batteries. We have certain fundamental energetic needs, and we have to know what those needs are, and we have to recharge ourselves, because nobody will do it for us. Nobody will know when we're getting drained, and nobody will know what refreshes us, what recharges us. And nobody teaches this. You be 20, 30, 40, 50 years old and not know, hey, are you aware of the 3 to 5 things that you have to do for yourself to recharge yourself? And I call it ballast. Do you know what your ballast is? Because if you don't know what your ballast consists of, then your wife having a bad day or having a hard time at work or your knee breaking or whatever it is will pull you down, will break you down. You'll be on your knees. But if you know what you have to have, and if you understand what you have to do to charge yourself, then you can withstand everything and you can fill yourself up. And that's the responsibility. And that's one of the things where men get themselves in trouble. We get ourselves in trouble. Typically, it's with money, sex, and drugs. Those are the 3 things that we tend to get in trouble with. We just figure, hey, the way I'm going to fill myself up, the way I'm going to recharge myself, by being very wealthy, by drinking or doing drugs, or by having sex with women, including our spouses. And that's the limit of it. And one of the fundamental things that I've learned in life is that, yeah, we are kind of like batteries, and we have a responsibility to ourselves to recharge ourselves and to know what those things are. My recharge plan, my ballast consists of buddies, hobbies, business, and movement. That's it. I've recently added sleep because I forgot how fundamental that is,
Buddies, hobbies, movements, sleep.
Buddies, hobbies, business, movement, and sleep. Those are really it. I need to interact with men that I love on a regular basis every week. There's coffee, or there's a meal, or there's a phone conversation, or we're hanging, at least one guy every week. I move my body 4 to 6 times a week. I'm at the gym. I'm doing what I do physically. I go to bed at a reasonable time and make sure that I'm prepared to get some good sleep. I love healthcare businesses with really excellent people who are doing excellent things. That's my ballast. These like early warning signs. For me, it's resentment, exhaustion, or anger. Those are my early warning signs. And what it means is, I need more ballast. That's all it means. What we usually think it means is something external. That person upset me. That situation is upsetting. But you have an opportunity and the ability to withstand that situation and that person simply by doubling down on your ballast. You know, did you eat? Did you eat food? Like real food?
It's like HALT, right?
Yeah, basic. And we try to make it complicated. You have to learn a meditative technique and you have to do it 20 minutes a day. And you have to remember a foreign language as part of your mantra. And you have to do this and you have to get it just right. But for most of us, it's a lot more fundamental than that. It's just basic. I remember in the midst of doing all these things and trying to get them all right and learning these tools and techniques, one of the most fundamental things to me that changed my life, really changed my life, and brought serious joy into it, I would go get ice cream and sit outside on the avenue downtown here and just eat a scoop of ice cream. It was one of the most effective, impactful, delightful things that it changed my life.
What a soul-filling moment. That was my favorite thing to do when I was 10 years old. I go to Thrifty and it was 10 cents for 2 scoops. My favorite thing to do in the afternoon, even though it was high fructose corn syrup. So I agree with you on that.
It's, you know, we try to make things complicated and we try to, you know, especially guys, we can be very hard on ourselves. And there's a belief that the more difficult it is, the more suffering that's involved, the better outcome that you'll get. And I would challenge that. I've done it. I've done plenty, but it depends on your outcome. If your outcome, your desired outcome is to be happy, then I would suggest working into your day every day, something that puts a smile on your face, because there's like dark energy and there's heavy energy and there's light energy, you know, and you're not going to get happy by suffering. It doesn't produce the right outcome.
Well, Jeff, what do you say about these bropreneurs where they are doing the cold plunge in the morning, or they're dragging, you know, giant chains around for an hour like Liver King, or they feel like that's the only way because comfort leads towards laziness and obesity and not being successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a place for it, especially in jump starting your day. And again, you got to look at what you need and when you need it. Like I'm a guy who within 5 minutes of waking up, my feet are on the ground. I'm getting ready to walk to the gym. It's 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, just because that's my bio clock anyway. And you can play with that kind of exertion. And there's something good that happens with that. My experience is it puts me in touch with being powerful and strong and forceful. And that's great medicine for not feeling powerful, strong, and forceful. So yeah, if you're feeling weak and you're feeling a little depressed and you're feeling kind of emotional, and you don't want to feel that way, yeah, there's a really great way to get out of that. Move your body in a vigorous way and make it as meaningful and forceful as you can. It's great. Yeah, there's a place for it. But the idea that life involves constant movement and constant doing is a form of suffering too. You know, it's a trap too. There's a balance between doing and being. Like doing and creating the relationship of your dreams or the business of your dreams or the health of your dreams and all that stuff is nothing if you can't sit on the front porch and accomplish nothing.
Yep. On your deathbed, you weren't thinking, man, I wish I spent 2 more hours in the office.
No. And
Jeff,
you know, and then we have a responsibility as well on an energetic level as to what kind of feeling and energy we're bringing to others. And that has to do with what kind of emotional, energetic state we're generating in ourselves. So if you see people and you're just upsetting the shit out of them because all you're doing is being Mr. Anxious and Mr. Do, go, you need to kind of balance it out because you're having an impact. You're hurting people around you.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned buddies, hobbies, business, movement, and sleep.
Yeah.
And I've heard other people, I want to say it was the COO of Facebook, say that you have, you know, sleep and money and friends and business and whatever the last one is, and you can only pick 3. Most people, they end up dropping the sleep and they drop physical activity because they want their friends, they want their business, and they want their family. You still have this kind of balancing issue, right?
Yep, you do. And you change it based on the demands of the time or your priorities of the time. The priorities, you can set them but they're going to change. When your wife gets sick and she needs you and for the next week or month or year, she has to be the priority. Guess what? Everything's going to shift. Or you get bad news about your heart and your cardiovascular system, you're going to be tending to it and you're going to shift your priorities. Or your business is tanking. It needs love and it needs attention right now in a big way. I think doing, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, we've also noticed here that definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same result. It's dynamic and we're dynamic.
Well, Jeff, if you could go back to your 22-year-old self, you had the car accident, what would you say?
I'd say, don't worry. In about 35 years, you're going to write a book that's really going to be helpful to you and everybody who's going through what you're going through. It's all going to be incredibly worthwhile and worth it.
And who but Jeff Cohen to write the book as a father, a man, a husband,
right.
A life journeyer who's gone through, who is the anti-hero's journey.
Yeah.
What questions, people have talked about this book, people have talked about you. What questions do you wish people had asked you?
When?
Now.
One of my favorite questions is when people ask for guidance about anything. And because it gives me an opportunity to ask them this: what instinctively, what intuitively have you thought you should be doing, but you haven't done? Because what I notice is most people that are looking for guidance and answers outside themselves, they already have them.
They need affirmation.
They already have them. We all have this relationship with the source of all that information, whether you want to call it God or life, or, everybody has a different word for that thing that's bigger than us that we're connected to. But we're always getting guidance and we're always getting messages and we're always having instincts and intuition and getting clarity about what the next 50 feet should be. We're just not necessarily listening, or we're frightened to do it. But rather than steal from them and tell them, hey, I am the source of something that you don't have, and I've got something, and I'm something that you're not, what I like to do with people is remind them, you've got this. You actually have this. Let me encourage you to know what you really already know and to have the courage to do what you've already been called to do, because that's going to develop the muscle memory for trust and faith and confidence. And that's not in coming to me or coming to you. That's in coming to ourselves. And we're constantly getting communicated with like that. One of my favorite things to do is to help people realize they're already equipped and that they're already okay. And the lessons that are right in front of them that might be hard are the perfect freaking lessons at that moment.
Exactly what you need, everything at the right time.
Yeah. I told a dear family member the other day, I said, stop looking at your watch. He's always looking at where he thinks he should be developmentally. And I'm like, dude, you're in the perfect place right now to learn exactly what there is to learn right now. And you know what there will be? Something else, and then something else. Stop being so freaking hard on yourself and pushing yourself and judging yourself for not being what you think you should be.
You're saying the tree ripens the fruit naturally.
The tree ripens the fruit naturally. Yeah, we are exactly where we need to be. And I heard somebody say that, who said it kind of in a fluffy spiritual way, and it was offensive. I think it's really true.
It's true.
I think it's true. I really do.
It takes a lot of faith or a lot of experience to realize that that's true. It's taken me 50 years to get to that point.
Yeah.
I wish you told me that 30 years ago.
Yeah, but you have to earn it, There's a difference between knowing things and embodying things. You want to know something? Read a book. But if you want to have it so that you can give it away, you have to go through it. There isn't a shortcut.
Yeah.
We're not wired to get information in our brains. We're wired to get information and deep wisdom in our bodies, to own it. That's why the journey, the hero's journey, it's not optional. And, a lot of people say, I want to talk to this one or read this book or watch this video so that I can avoid the pain. A lot of people will say that. And I'm like,
you get stronger. You don't avoid the pain. The pain
you
gets
go
bigger
right,
the stronger you
go
get.
right to it. Yeah. And then you embody it, and then you have it. Knowledge is given, but wisdom is earned. You have to earn it. The guy that you and I are, the guys that we are today, we earned it. We put in the time. We made the best out of things. We pulled the value out of it. We insisted on learning and growing and then sharing it. that's life, and that's natural, and that's unavoidable as a human being.